The universe was endless, dark, silent. It stretched without borders, without mercy, without care. Stars burned like small fires in an ocean of night, but even they would one day fade into cold ashes. In this infinite stage, humanity was nothing more than a fragile spark, tiny, breakable, and easy to forget. For billions of years before humans came, the universe had swallowed worlds, crushed stars, and erased life without hesitation. Galaxies collided like angry storms. Black holes tore apart suns. Time itself moved forward without a single pause. If something lived, the universe reminded it, you will not last forever. And yet, somehow, humans appeared. Not in the center of the cosmos, not in a special place, just on a small blue planet circling an ordinary star. From far away, Earth was no more important than a grain of sand lost on the beach. To the universe, this world did not matter. But something strange happened here. On this small planet, fragile creatures rose from the dust. They had no sharp teeth like predators. They had no thick skin to protect them. They were slow, weak, and easy to kill. Nature was cruel to them. Storms broke their homes. Wild animals hunted them. Diseases took their children. Everything around them whispered the same message: you should not survive. And yet, they did. The story of humanity was never about strength. It was about something hidden, something even the cold universe could not crush. A secret weapon that no other creature carried in the same way. But what was it? Generations passed, and still humans fought against impossible odds. When ice covered their lands, they learned to make fire. When wild beasts attacked, they shaped stones into tools. When hunger came, they planted seeds and grew food from the soil. Every time death tried to erase them, humans found a way back. It was as if an invisible force kept pushing them forward. Something stronger than teeth, stronger than claws, stronger even than fear itself. The universe remained silent, but humanity refused to be silent with it. They shouted, they built, they dreamed, and slowly, step by step, they left footprint across their planet. But the cold universe was not finished. Great disasters came. Volcanoes filled the sky with ash. Plagues spread like shadows, taking millions. Floods swallowed cities. Wars turned nations into graves. Again and again, the universe tested them, asking, how much can you endure before you finally break? And again, humans answered, we will not stop. They should not have survived. By logic, by numbers, by strength, they were too weak. And yet, the weak ones lived while giants like mammoths and saber-toothed cats vanished into history. Why? The answer was hidden, like a secret flame. Even now, as people looked up at the night sky, they saw only darkness between the stars. Silence. Emptiness. No sign of life. The universe did not care if they were here or not. To the stars, humanity was only a brief spark, gone in a blink. But inside that spark lived something the universe could not erase so easily. Something invisible. Something unmeasurable. Something that gave meaning to pain, to loss, to survival. Something that turned fragile creatures into builders, dreamers, storytellers. It was humanity's hidden weapon, and the universe had no defense against it. The story of this weapon was only beginning. The universe had always loved strength. Stars exploded with power. Planets crashed with violence. Black holes swallowed light itself. Every corner of space was ruled by force. And then came humans. They were small, soft, and weak compared to the giants of Earth. Their skin tore easily. Their bones broke quickly. They were slower than predators and weaker than prey. Even a simple storm could destroy their shelters, and even a simple sickness could take their lives. If life was a game of strength, humans should have lost long ago. Look at the great creatures that walked beside them. The mammoth, tall as towers, covered with thick hair and long tusks. The saber-toothed cat, with jaws strong enough to crush bone. The giant cave bear, heavier than 10 men. These were the rulers of the earth. And yet, one by one, they disappeared. The fragile creature remained. But how? Every other animal had a weapon in its body. Sharp teeth, strong claws, thick skin, wings to fly, speed to escape. Humans had none of these. They were born almost defenseless. A newborn child could not walk, could not feed itself, could not fight. Without care, it would die within hours. By the rules of nature, humans were mistakes. But the universe had overlooked something. Inside the fragile creature lived a different kind of weapon, not made of bone or muscle, but of something invisible, a spark inside the mind, a force inside the heart. The first humans feared the dark, but instead of hiding forever, they looked at fire and thought, maybe this can keep the dark away. They feared beasts, but instead of running, they picked up stones and shaped them into sharp edges. Their bodies were weak, but their minds whispered new powers. That whisper grew louder across the ages. When hunger struck, they did not wait to starve. They learned to plant seeds. When rivers flooded, they built walls to guide the water. When cold winds froze the land, they sewed animal skins into clothing. Step by step, they found answers where no answers should exist. The fragile creature carried something that could not be seen but could be felt everywhere: imagination. And imagination was dangerous. It made them think of things that were not real yet. A spear before the spear existed. A wheel before the wheel was built. A future before the future had come. It was a strange gift that separated humans from every other creature on Earth. Still, survival was never easy. Many times, their numbers fell so low that they were close to extinction. Entire villages died from hunger. Whole tribes vanished from disease. At times, it seemed certain the fragile creature would finally disappear like the others. But always, something saved them. When one fell, another remembered their story. When one died, another carried their idea. Knowledge did not stay buried with the dead. It passed from one fragile life to the next, becoming stronger each time. This was something no other animal had mastered. Wolves had teeth. Lions had claws. But humans had memory. They had stories. They had lessons written not in stone, but in the mind. That memory became a chain across generations, unbroken even by death. The fragile creature was weak alone, but together they became something powerful. A single human could be killed easily. 100 humans, with shared fire and tools, could bring down the largest beast. This was their hidden weapon growing in silence. Still, the universe did not care. Storms raged. Volcanoes burned. Ice ages spread across the earth. Again and again, the world whispered, "You should not be here. You cannot last." And again, the fragile creature whispered back, "Watch us. The mammoths are gone. The saber-toothed cats are gone. The cave bears are gone. But the fragile creature still stands. Small in body, but carrying something bigger than mountains inside the mind. The universe may not have noticed yet, but humanity was preparing for something greater. They were fragile, yes, but they were not finished, not even close. The story of their hidden weapon was only beginning to unfold. The fragile creature had survived the beasts, the storms, and the cold nights. But survival was never simple. The universe always had new tests, and each test was harder than the last. For every step forward, there was pain. For every victory, there was loss. Humanity's history was written not in comfort, but in struggle. The first great struggle came with hunger. Food was never enough. Fields turned to dust when the rains failed. Forests gave little when animals ran far away. Whole tribes disappeared, their bones left under the open sky. The earth reminded them, "You are small, you are weak." But they answered. They learned to grow crops, to guide rivers, to store food for the dark seasons. Hunger did not end, but it no longer ruled them. The second great struggle came with sickness. Invisible enemies, too small for the eye, spread from one body to another. Plague swept through villages, leaving silence behind. No weapon of stone or fire could fight them. Families broke apart. Children were buried before they could grow. Again, the universe whispered, "You will not last." But again, they refused to listen. They discovered plants that healed wounds. They learned to boil water. They shared knowledge of sickness and survival. Centuries later, they built medicines, tools, and cures. Sickness never fully left, but it could no longer destroy them completely. The third struggle came with themselves. Humans fought not only against nature, but against their own kind. Wars erupted over land, food, power, and belief. Villages burned. Cities crumbled. Brothers raised weapons against brothers. The universe must have smiled then. If humanity would not die from hunger or disease, perhaps they would destroy themselves. And yet, even through war, something strange happened. New ideas were born. New inventions appeared. From the fires of battle came stronger tools, stronger knowledge, stronger unity. Humanity did not vanish. It changed. This was the pattern of their story. Every disaster brought pain, but also something hidden. Every fall carried the seed of rising again. But how? By logic, they should have been erased long ago. By numbers, they were too few. By strength, they were too weak. And yet, they always returned. The secret weapon was still not fully clear, but it was there, hiding in their struggles. When hunger came, they imagined ways to grow more. When sickness came, they imagined ways to heal. When war came, they imagined peace, and sometimes even achieved it. Imagination, memory, hope. These invisible forces became shields sharper than claws, stronger than teeth. But the struggles never stopped. Volcanoes darkened the skies. Floods drowned the land. Fire rained from the heavens when rocks from space crashed into Earth. Every time, humans stood at the edge of extinction. Every time, they faced the same question, will this be the end? And every time, the answer was the same, not yet. The fragile creature was stubborn, too stubborn to give up, too stubborn to disappear. Even in their darkest nights, they told stories. Around the fire, they spoke of gods, heroes, monsters, and hope. These stories were more than words. They were reminders. Reminders that life was worth fighting for. Reminders that the struggle was not the end, but only the beginning of something greater. The universe kept testing them, as if curious, how far can this fragile creature go before it finally breaks? But humanity did not break. The secret weapon was still hidden, but growing stronger with every struggle. The universe was vast, cold, and merciless, but inside the fragile creature burned a small flame. It was faint, but it refused to die. Each disaster only made it brighter. The endless struggles were not the end of humanity. They were the training ground, the preparation for something greater. The fragile creature was becoming something more, and the universe was not ready for what came next. For ages, the fragile creature had walked through storms of hunger, sickness, war, and disaster. Each time, the universe tried to erase them. Each time, they found a way back. Why? The answer was never in their muscles, never in their teeth, never in their claws. The answer was always inside, invisible, quiet, but unbreakable. It was a flame, not a flame of fire, but a flame of hope and imagination. This was humanity's hidden weapon. When darkness covered the sky, this flame whispered, "There is still light." When fear closed their hearts, this flame whispered, "There is still a way." When death stood at their doors, this flame whispered, "Not yet." No animal carried such a flame. The wolf had strength. The eagle had flight. The lion had teeth. But only humans carried this invisible fire that could not be crushed. It burned inside their minds, inside their stories, inside their dreams. The first spark of this flame appeared when they looked at the night sky and wondered, what is beyond those lights? Other creatures saw stars only as dots. Humans saw questions. Questions turned into dreams. Dreams turned into answers. This was the flame at work. It gave them courage when there was no reason to be brave. It gave them ideas when the world offered only silence. It gave them strength not from their bodies, but from their belief that tomorrow could be better than today. The universe was cold. The universe was empty. But inside the fragile creature, warmth grew. The flame was not perfect. It could burn in dangerous ways. The same imagination that created tools also created weapons. The same hope that built nations also caused wars. But even through mistakes, the flame never went out. It only grew brighter. From this hidden weapon came every invention. Fire, wheel, writing, medicine. Each step forward was born from the flame. A human looked at stone and imagined a blade. A human looked at a log and imagined a boat. A human looked at the sky and imagined wings. And what was imagined soon became real. That was the power of the hidden flame. It allowed them to see what did not exist yet, to believe in a future before the future arrived. It was this fire that made them storytellers. Around the fire, They spoke of heroes who fought monsters, gods who shaped the world, futures where humans reach beyond the sky. These were not just stories. They were blueprints of survival, dreams disguised as myths, hope disguised as tales. Every story passed down through generations carried the same secret message. Do not stop. Do not give up. You are more than you think. The universe tried to remind them of their weakness, but the flame reminded them of their strength. It was not strength of muscle. It was not strength of weapons. It was a strength to imagine something better and then to chase it. Other creatures accepted the world as it was. Humans refused. They looked at the impossible and said, "We will find a way." That was the difference. That was the weapon. And it was only the beginning, because a flame was no longer satisfied with Earth alone. Every night, humans lifted their eyes to the stars. They saw cold light shining across the endless sky. The universe whispered, "You do not belong here. You are too small, too fragile, too temporary." But the flame inside whispered back, "Maybe we do belong here. Maybe we belong everywhere." This was the moment the fragile creature changed forever. No longer just survivors of Earth. No longer just victims of the cold universe. They were dreamers preparing to reach beyond their home. The hidden flame pushed them forward, from caves to villages, from villages to cities, from cities to nations, each step lit by the fire inside. And now, the flame burned with a new question. What lies beyond the sky? The universe had tested them with hunger, war, and disaster. But soon, humanity would face its greatest test yet, the test of the stars. The fragile creature was ready to leave the cradle, and the cold universe, silent and endless, was about to meet the fire that refused to die. The hidden flame had carried humanity through hunger, sickness, and endless wars. It had lifted them from caves to cities, from weakness to survival. But now, the flame burned brighter than ever before, because humans had begun to look upward. The night sky was no longer just a roof of darkness. It was a map, a mystery, a promise. Every star was a question. Every shadow between them was a challenge. Other creatures looked at the sky and saw nothing but light. Humans looked and asked, "What lies beyond? Are we alone? Can we reach those fires above us?" The stars were calling. At first, humanity could only dream. Stories of gods riding the skies, heroes flying with wings of fire, travelers crossing the heavens filled their myths. These stories were not foolish. They were the early voice of the flame, whispering, "You are meant for more." For centuries, the dream of flight seemed impossible. The universe mocked them with silence. The sky was too high. The stars were too far. Wings of bone and skin could not carry them. But the fragile creature refused to accept limits. They studied birds. They built strange machines of wood and cloth. Many fell. Many failed. But every fall carried knowledge. Every failure became a step closer to the sky. And then, one day, fragile wings of wood lifted from the ground. Humanity had flown. The dream was no longer only a dream. It was real. From that moment, the flame demanded more. Flying across the sky was not enough. They wanted to touch the stars. The universe watched in silence as they built rockets, engines of fire reaching beyond the clouds. At first, they sent machines, then animals, then, at last, a human body rose beyond Earth's grasp, carried by the force of imagination turned into steel. For the first time in history, the fragile creature stood outside its home world and looked back. Earth was small, blue, beautiful, a fragile island in a sea of black. And for the first time, the universe seemed even colder, even emptier, but also more possible. The flame inside them whispered, "If we can reach here, we can reach further." The race to the stars began. Nations competed, but behind their struggles was the same hidden fire. They built stronger rockets, faster ships, sharper eyes to see into the endless night. And then it happened. Human footsteps pressed into the surface of the moon. A world beyond Earth had been touched by fragile human feet. The universe had no choice but to notice. But the moon was only the beginning. Telescopes revealed galaxies beyond count. Machines traveled to planets and sent back secrets. Space was no longer just a dream. It was becoming a destination. And still, the stars called. The flame inside humanity was not satisfied. It wanted more than visits. It wanted journeys. It wanted homes beyond Earth. It wanted to spread fire across the cold emptiness. But the universe was not welcoming. The distances were endless. The dangers uncountable. Radiation, emptiness, loneliness, all were waiting in the dark. The question was clear. Can humanity's hidden weapon, this small flame, survive the infinite cold? The stars did not answer. They only shone, silent as always. But humans had already chosen their answer. They had crossed oceans when oceans told them no. They had climbed mountains when mountains blocked their way. They had walked on the moon when the moon seemed impossible. Now, their eyes were on Mars, on new worlds, on galaxies yet unseen. The universe was vast. The universe was merciless. But humanity's flame had grown stronger with every struggle. And now, that flame was daring to reach beyond Earth itself. The fragile creature was no longer only a survivor of this planet. It was becoming a traveler of the stars. The call of the universe was clear. The stars were waiting, and humanity was answering.